Hello, all, and welcome to the RaiderTakes special March Madness edition podcast. I'm Cody Maggard, joined alongside Kevin Booth. And before we get started, students, as you know, we just came back from spring break. So, Kevin, how was your spring break?
My spring break was great, Cody. I spent a little time in the Bahamas. I was on a cruise, so I can't really complain. How was yours?
I was all right. I went to Phoenix for work. Got to see some top recruits play in the national tournament. That was nice. The under-8 number one player in the country. His team won the championship. I also got to witness a riveting performance of Willy Wonka at my high school.
Wow, that's got to be the highlight of your spring break. Not the Phoenix, not the basketball. The Willy Wonka sounds great to me.
The choral department for my high school put on a play of Willy Wonka, and one of my very best friends, her name is Cameron, she was in it, and I told her I would shout her out on this podcast. So if you're listening, you better be. There's your name.
Wow. Well, good for her. She got a little shout out here. But what did happen over spring break was we started the tournament. Yeah. We started the NCAA tournament, which is mostly what we're going to talk about here because that's really what's big going on in sports, especially nationally and things like that. And that's what everybody's paying attention to. And that's especially what we're paying attention to.
Yeah.
And we're not going to stray away from the fact that we're Kentucky fans. So if that turns you off, then you can turn us off, I guess. We're not going to be completely biased, but we'll be objective every now and then, but we're not going to stray away from that.
Yeah. How's your bracket looking?
So I had a perfect South until Cincinnati was beaten by UCLA. But other than that, it was okay. It was really good throughout the first round, the second round, and then the second round really got me, actually. Mm-hmm. The round of 32, there were some pretty, not like super surprising, but you were just like, it was kind of like a head nod to those teams. Like, you know what, Wisconsin, Florida, good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. The South Carolina Duke game really messed my bracket up. But yeah. Shout out to the SEC. SEC versus the world on that one.
No, for the entire season we heard that ACC is a power the biggest power conference.
Like every team in the conference.
They were gonna get 9-10 teams in the conference. The SEC is the worst conference. All this stuff, and the ACC has one team left with North Carolina, and SEC has 3 teams.
Yeah, Florida, South Carolina, and Kentucky still in.
Now, I mean, it's obvious. Like the ACC is most likely the best conference.
You're right.
In basketball, the SEC has struggled, but we're doing pretty well. I mean,
showing up when it matters.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not going to convince me at this moment that the ACC is this powerhouse when South Carolina was on a losing streak going into this, and they go in and beat Duke. Florida beats Virginia by 20.
Yeah, Florida really handed it to Virginia.
A Virginia team that is so boring to watch.
Virginia might be the most overrated team in college basketball. Think about that for a second. You always hear about, if you watch ESPN, you always hear about Virginia has the best defense. Nobody wants to play Virginia in the tournament. Well, Virginia put up 39 against Florida.
Yeah, their offense. I mean, they can slow you down big time, and that's their thing. That's always been their thing. They'll slow you down, make you play their game, and Florida just said, "Okay, we'll match it." Yeah. And I mean, just essentially made them take shots that they didn't want to take and that they can't make, and so I can almost agree with that. I mean, Virginia was very underwhelming this year in the tournament, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we'll get to the Sweet 16 matchups a little bit later, but right now just talking about we didn't have really any 13-4 games that went the other way or 15-2 games, but once we got into the second round, besides Middle Tennessee State,
who was favored, by the way.
12-5 over Minnesota. Minnesota was a little high for...
That was the most ridiculous thing ever. For Minnesota to be higher than Wisconsin even. Like, I actually picked that game because... Which, I mean, apparently many people picked that game because they were favored. But, come on. Minnesota is not a good team.
No, they're not a 5 seed.
No.
Just like Wichita State shouldn't have been a 10.
No, but they were going to get matched up against Kentucky no matter what.
So let's just talk a little bit about these round of 32 games. And right away, what jumps out to you, or at least to me, besides the South Carolina Duke game, I thought the Gonzaga Northwestern game was pretty entertaining, especially there when it got close because the referees made a pretty bad decision on that goaltending that wasn't called when The defender put his arm through the rim
Yes.
and blocked the shot.
And Northwestern's coach went crazy.
Yeah, Chris Collins lost his mind.
And he had a case. I mean, he was right.
Northwestern was on a run. They were going to pull it within 2, get it to 1 or 2 possessions and have a chance going down the stretch. But then that just completely reversed fortunes, and Gonzaga went through. But besides that, the South Carolina Duke game, man, that game was fun to watch.
Absolutely. So I'm actually in a few tournament pools, and I want to win those so badly. But like I said, I'm not going to stray away from that. I'm a huge Kentucky fan. Anytime I can watch Duke lose, and especially if I can watch Duke lose to South Carolina, who they have preached is the worst 7 seed, which I didn't have any confidence
Matt Jones of Kentucky Sports Radio. We both know who Matt Jones is.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, he's the host of Kentucky Sports Radio, and which is pretty big in the state here. And he said on Twitter, South Carolina is the worst 7 seed ever. He
has since ate his words.
Yes, he has.
And so to watch Duke essentially crumble. I mean, Luke Kennard's a great player.
Luke Kennard is a great player.
To watch him sit on the floor and cry and yell and scream was probably one of the greatest things I've ever watched. To watch Grayson Allen think that he was they need to just sit Grayson Allen down throughout. I mean, halfway through the season, they should have realized Grayson Allen's not going to get this done. It's going to be Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum played pretty well in that game.
It's going to be Jason Tatum and Luke Kennard that's going to take them as far as they can go. Grayson Allen, I believe, in the last 2 minutes, jacked up 3 or 4 threes. And I was like, what are you doing? Get the ball out of your hands.
Yeah.
But you got to give it to South Carolina.
They
scoring
65 in the second half.
65 in the second half. So there were some games this season they didn't even score 65 points.
You're right.
So
South Carolina, best defensive team in the SEC statistics-wise. And so everyone was concerned, how are they going to keep up with Duke? How are they going to score against Duke? Because you're not going to be able to stop them every time down the floor.
Right.
And they did in the second half. They put up 65 on them in the second half. And that was impressive.
South Carolina's Thornwell.
Zendarius Thornwell?
He's the truth. He is absolutely. I don't want to say that he's the best player in the SEC because I don't necessarily believe that.
He was voted SEC Player of the Year.
That's just because they can't give it to Kentucky every year. I mean, I'm not even being a homer here. Like, that's just true.
Yeah.
That's the same reason they can't give Coach of the Year to Cal every year. He's clearly the best coach in the SEC every year. But, I mean, you take that South Carolina team with Thornwell, they proved everybody wrong. And good for them. They're playing really well. They have Baylor in their next matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, they could beat Baylor. Baylor's not great, but also Baylor's pretty good. I mean, it's going to be a tough game for them. But think if South Carolina made it to the Elite Eight.
They're not great, but they're pretty good. Which one is it?
They're not great, but they're good. There's a difference.
They can score just like Duke could. They don't have the firepower that Duke has, but they can score the basketball.
Yeah.
And the thing with Baylor, they always have teams that are really long and athletic.
Right.
But they never can get it done in the Sweet 16.
Never.
And I don't know if that'll continue. South Carolina they'll have to score again. They'll have to get up in the high 70s, I think, to beat Baylor. But I thought the interesting thing about that Duke game was it was actually played in Greenville, South Carolina. And 60% of the fans there were South Carolina fans, but that's because 40% of those fans were North Carolina fans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the same thing happened in the Louisville game that was in Indianapolis. So Louisville played right before Kentucky. Kentucky fans
Michigan.
Travel everywhere.
Yeah.
So you get to the end of that game where Louisville's trailing, Michigan's playing some of their best basketball, and Kentucky fans are just going nuts, booing Louisville, cheering on Michigan. And so it became essentially the closest thing to a home game you can have on a neutral floor for Michigan, and the same thing happened with South Carolina. Yeah. I mean, it was great. Both of those situations, you see, like, I think I saw a North Carolina fan that had North Carolina jersey on, and South Carolina scored, and they're going nuts. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty fun to watch. It's pretty fun to watch. I can't imagine if South Carolina can beat Baylor, they will play the winner of Florida and Wisconsin. Yeah. So both beatable teams.
That could be an SEC Elite Eight there.
Imagine if you had South Carolina in the Final Four.
I don't think that's going to happen, but if South Carolina, whoever put money on South Carolina at the beginning of the year, they're going to be the lesser city of the tournament this year.
No, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't pick it, and I wouldn't, but it could happen.
It could happen, yeah, because I think Florida, moving on to Florida-Wisconsin, I think that Florida does have a good chance to beat Wisconsin.
Yeah, but Wisconsin's playing some great basketball. They played against Villanova, and Villanova, the number 1 overall seed.
I thought that was the best matchup that Wisconsin could have. Like, in terms of 1 and 8, I thought Villanova was their
but
best
also
chance to win that
I don't
game.
believe they should have been an 8 seed, and that kind of that's that's the thing about the selection committee that kind of ticks people off is there's no reason that Villanova in the second round, the best number 1 overall seed, should have to play a Wisconsin team that should have been ranked 5.
That's like that Wichita State-Kentucky game from a few years ago. When Wichita State was the number 1 overall seed, and they had to play Kentucky in the second round. It's a lot like that. But we both know that Wisconsin's good to beat a number 1 team, every couple of years.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about that. Let's not reminisce.
But I do think that could potentially set up well for Florida because they have a solid defense. But so does Wisconsin, but Wisconsin does struggle at times to score the ball because they're playing the Big Ten.
Shots fired. No, but I mean, I could see Florida the way that they're playing right now. I could see them beating Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin has a great team.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're very gritty. Their point guard is really good. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. But he's very good. I mean, just watching him play, and he reminds me of the point guard they had 2 years ago.
Sam Decker?
No, not Sam Decker. But Sam Decker was a good player. But the point guard that they had a couple years ago when they beat Kentucky, that 38-0 team, he reminds me a lot of him.
Bronson Caden.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see that game honestly going either way. If I had to pick, Florida's playing too good right now. I mean, they just beat Virginia. I mean, I know Virginia's overrated, but Virginia always has a solid team.
Yeah.
And to beat a team that plays defensively by 20, strictly defense, that's how they're going to beat.
And only give up 39.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good matchup right there.
Yeah, that's a high school basketball score right there, 65-39.
That is in fact a high school basketball score. But I mean, that's a good matchup. I like that with Wisconsin and Florida, and they busted a lot of brackets.
We'll just keep going down here. We've already talked about Baylor, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So we'll move to the West region now. Gonzaga and West Virginia. That could be an interesting game.
That could
Because West Virginia, aka Press Virginia, they press you 94 feet. They play defense.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna be gritty. They're gonna play hard. They're gonna get in there. They're gonna be physical, and that could. But this isn't the Gonzaga that we're used to.
Yeah.
See, I mean, we're used to...
Nigel Williams-Goss is such a good player.
Well, we're used to these... I mean, let's just say it how it is. We're used to these white boys that can shoot like crazy. I mean, that is what it is. But this team is athletic. Yeah. I mean, this team is a different Gonzaga team that we've seen in other years, and that's why they're doing so well right now. So I can see Gonzaga making it... I could see Gonzaga winning that game by 20, or I could see it being a close game. I mean, West Virginia's really good, but I just think this is a different Gonzaga team that, I mean, usually you think Gonzaga, you're like, oh, they're going to disappoint in the tournament. But this year, I think they're different.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Gonzaga is different than what we've been used to because they always have good upperclassmen leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's no different this year. But I do think the problem that they could run into is West Virginia's press, and I already kind of alluded to it because every team has struggled with that this year, even Kansas.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be unlike anything they've seen this year so far.
Probably so.
Because I don't know if any team in the West Coast Conference is playing this kind of defense on this
the only team that they played that was worth anything this season was
St. Mary's. Yeah.
And that's it.
The St. Mary's did put up a good game against Arizona.
No, they did, absolutely. I mean, I had them losing to VCU in the first round. So I totally threw them out. I mean, because they played twice and lost twice by 20 to Gonzaga.
Yeah.
So I think they might have even played 3 times. Did they play? They may have played in that conference tournament. I don't recall.
Yeah.
But either way, I had no confidence in them. But they did put up a good game against Arizona, and now they're going to be playing a Xavier team who's playing some of the best basketball in the tournament.
And we talked about not a lot of surprises, and you could say Xavier would be a surprise at an 11 seed, but probably once again shouldn't have been an 11 seed.
Probably not.
Because Xavier's a good basketball team. But they did get kind of a decent draw, let's be honest. They got the 6th seed in Maryland. overrated. Hasn't played anyone.
True, but also Maryland has Melo Trimble, who is one of the best players in the country by far. And
Yes.
I actually had I had Maryland winning that game because I didn't think Xavier had the power or the players to be able to keep up with to stop him.
And then Xavier won that game, got a 3 seed in Florida State, which I don't know how Florida State's a 3 seed, but that's not for me to decide.
Yeah.
And then just blitzed them, 91-66.
Yeah.
66.
It's incredible. I mean, Xavier, like I said, playing some of the best basketball in the tournament right now.
Yeah. So Xavier Arizona, that could be a good game, but that could get out of hand quick though if Xavier's not careful. Arizona's a heck of a basketball team.
Oh, I think they're the most under the radar team that's come into this tournament. They're a 2 seed that no one's talking about.
Yeah.
No one's picking them really to win the whole thing. No one's really. I mean, some people are picking them to their Final Four. I had them in my Final Four because they're playing. I mean, they're playing solid on both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
They have the ability to score whenever they need to, but they can also shut you down on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
So Xavier's got their hands full, but if they can win that game, I mean, they're playing West Virginia or Gonzaga, both of which I don't think are as good as Arizona.
Right.
And so
I think that if Arizona and Gonzaga play in that Elite Eight, because they played once already this year and Gonzaga won that game, but Arizona didn't have some of their best players.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could go Arizona's way.
Right.
Moving to the other side of the bracket here, to the Midwest region, Kansas and Purdue. The 1 seed Kansas, the 4 seed Purdue. That game's interesting because Purdue is a really good team. They have great post presence. Caleb Swanigan,
man.
Probably the best 4 in the country, if we're honest.
Yeah, I mean he's playing great basketball right now, but even though they struggled a little bit in that Michigan State game,
they still put up 90.
Yeah, Kansas is still. I mean,
and it seemed like every time, because I watched that game, and it seemed like every time they needed a bucket, no problem.
No, not at all. And I mean they've got the tools in each player.
Frank Mason, Josh Jackson.
Josh Jackson's unbelievable.
And you can debate whether he should be playing in this tournament or not because of some off-the-court issues. But
yeah,
on the court, he played extremely well against Michigan and really got them. He was their bucket getter when they needed it.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. And he's been like that all season. You saw that early in the season against Kentucky when they needed a basket. They gave it to him. They gave the ball up to him. They've put their trust in him, and they're playing great. I think they're playing really great, and I see them beating Purdue in that game.
If Purdue can play well inside out because they're going to have to pay attention to the post, and if they can hit enough threes, they could win that game, but they'll have to get some stops on defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Purdue's a pretty good defensive team, though. They're playing the Big Ten. The other game in the Midwest, 3 seed Oregon, 7 seed Michigan. Did you have Michigan going to the Sweet 16?
I did not. I actually had Louisville winning that game.
I did too.
But again,
I actually had Oklahoma State winning that game against Michigan.
Really?
Yeah.
No, see, I had Michigan State, I had Michigan winning the first game, and then I had them getting beat by Louisville. But Michigan's playing great. I feel like I keep saying that about everybody. Obviously, they're playing great. They keep winning, but
Michigan really is. Though.
No, but
they
Michigan
hit a hot streak.
They're on
after their plane crash ordeal. They really turned it on.
Yeah, I mean,
won the Big Ten tournament, and now they're in the Sweet 16.
That Louisville game, they did not give Louisville a chance after they took that lead. It was over for Louisville. I mean, which good. I don't like Louisville. I mean, that's Kentucky's rival. I'm glad that they lost. But also, I mean, Louisville just looked like, I mean, you got 0 points from Snyder.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that. And then, I mean, after the game, Patino goes in and
he
throws his players under the bus. And I'm like, man, at least take some of the credit. I mean, we all know Snyder didn't play up to his potential.
Yeah. I
mean, dude had 0 points, and you just can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell's a great player. Some of their post presence is great. He had that team at a 2 seed when I thought that this team was going to struggle like crazy this year.
Yeah.
And then he goes in and just throws them under the. I mean.
Yeah. Said it was a mental issue with the players, just not concentrating. Some of that's true, but some of that has to be, on the coach.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's your job to get your players focused.
Yeah.
It's your job to get them ready for the game, especially around tournament time. You have to preach to them that this is it, and So that some of that at least has to be on you. But I mean, it's not like Louisville played a terrible game. They kept that game close.
Yeah.
They
had their chances to win.
Absolutely. Should they have won? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, you had one guy play very poorly. And that's really it.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan was just a better team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think with that Oregon game, I don't think Michigan has enough to keep up with Oregon offensively.
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks is a very good player.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I agree, Dylan Brooks is great. But I have heard that Dylan Brooks is the Grayson Allen of the West Coast because, and you just don't realize that because you never watch West Coast games. I mean, they come on too late. Nobody really cares. Nobody wants to watch them. But apparently he's had incidents with tripping people. Apparently he's just kind of a punk. I mean, he's a great player, so whatever.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting. I never really had heard that.
Yeah.
And then I watched him play, and I've watched him play throughout the season, but also in that game against Rhode Island when it was close. I mean, Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode
shocking
Island.
the world. I mean, I had him in that first game, but keeping it really close with Oregon.
Yeah.
In that game.
Yeah, they had their chances to win that game too. But yeah, I think Oregon. Do you have Oregon going through from that Michigan game?
Yeah, I do because I had Oregon beating Louisville.
Yeah.
So I think Oregon's just too much offensively and can really speed you up.
Yeah. Now moving to the South, which is this region might get some time spent on it, but that's okay. These games are in Memphis. We'll come back to that a little later. But North Carolina, the 1 seed, Butler, the 4 seed.
All chalk in this region. Just 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Sweet 16.
Butler, 4 seed out of the Big East. Butler's a good team. How do you see them faring up against North Carolina?
I think they lose. I think they lose by 10 to 15. Too. And I think the reason is North Carolina is the best team in this tournament right now.
Yeah, they are. That game, against Arkansas, that was a fun game to watch because I want to come back to some ref issues here again. But Arkansas kind of got hosed a little bit.
They did. I mean, that was a really
and I think we're both thinking of the exact play there at the end where there should have been a charge or a walk called, and there was nothing. And Kennedy Meeks tapped one in for 2 points, and that really decided the game. But North Carolina can score. They can score whenever they want.
Just when you want to talk about a high-powered offense that can literally put the ball in all 5 players' hands, and if you need a basket, they will get you a basket. I mean, it can be crunch time. It can be halfway through the first half, and you say, hey, I need you to go score. They can go score. They lack a little bit defensively, but not a whole lot, and they make up for it in their offense.
And that game against Arkansas, they shut Arkansas down for the last 3.5 minutes of that game. Kept them scoreless.
So, I mean, when they need to bear down, get buckets, and play defense, they can do it. And that's why I think they're the best team in this region right now. Or not just in this region, in this entire tournament.
Yeah, and Roy Williams said after the game, he said, we haven't had a game like this all year where we had to lock it down defensively.
Right.
And that's scary because they haven't had a game that tested them like that, and they passed the first test. That's scary for the South region.
The good thing is, so far, obviously they played a 16 seed in the first, which is, nothing. But playing against Arkansas, you saw a lot of physicality that kind of threw them off a little bit.
Yeah. There was a good stretch for the middle second half of that game there around the 12 to 8 minute mark where Arkansas was really taking it to them.
Oh, yeah.
And had them reeling a little bit. But obviously they recovered. So we both have North Carolina going through for that. And the thing about Butler, playing the Big East, the new Big East, unfortunately.
Right.
But Butler can lock it down. They can play good basketball.
Yeah.
They're Butler. They're exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah,
Brad Stevens isn't there, but it's still Butler basketball.
It's still Butler, but the thing is, so far they've played 2 teams that Middle Tennessee State is a good team.
Yeah.
But, they have not played in North Carolina yet. And I don't know that they've played in North Carolina really all season.
Villanova.
They beat Villanova twice or once?
Once, I think, yeah.
So, but, you just saw Villanova lose to Wisconsin. You know, I don't see them putting up – I see North Carolina probably leading that entire game. I don't think that they can bear down and stop this high-powered offense. I could be proven wrong.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope that I'm proven wrong. I hope that Butler wins this game, pulls through. But I just don't think that they.
I don't see it happening.
I don't think they have the power and the players to move on.
Moving down to the late game Friday night in the South region.
Most important game.
3-seeded UCLA, 2-seeded Kentucky.
Already matched up once this year.
Yeah, 97-92 to UCLA. And I actually didn't get to see any of that game because I was in Marshall County for Hoop Fest.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get to see how it played out.
I watched the entire game, and that's early in the season.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a December game, early or like mid-December game. Yeah. That's a very, especially for a John Calipari team with freshmen, and even that UCLA team. I mean, they've improved since then. But what I think is going to be different about this game is Kentucky has, and I'm being very objective here. I mean, I know I'm a Kentucky fan, but you have to call it as it is. Kentucky has improved their defense
tenfold
since then. They have locked down. You saw it in that Wichita State game. Yes. I mean, 2 defensive plays at the end of that game that you would have never thought. I mean, you would have never thought.
And what really surprised me, because that first game against Northern Kentucky, and we'll get to UCLA in a second, but the first game against Northern Kentucky really didn't look like they had any kind of desire to win that game.
No urgency.
But from the tip against Wichita State, I've never seen this season this Kentucky team come out that intense from the tip.
There's a couple things that I took away from that Wichita State game and from that Northern game. The Northern game, when I said, and I tweeted this out, Kentucky went into that game very lackadaisical. It's the 9:40 game that I think it started like 10. Yeah. It's late at night. You're playing a Northern Kentucky team who you're way more talented than.
And you can play at like 60% and get through, but that Northern team was pretty good.
That's a good Northern team, and I hated that they were put up against Kentucky. I don't think they should have been put up against Kentucky or Louisville. I hate that for the state, because had Northern Kentucky been playing, let's say, Arizona or Duke, well, especially Duke, but or even, I mean, you put them as a 16 seed and they're playing one of the whole state of Kentucky's behind them.
Yeah.
But you put them up against Kentucky and you lose that entire. I mean, you have the Northern fans, but I mean, you lose that entire.
Those fans are normally Kentucky fans anyway.
Exactly. So, but in that game, I think you had a Kentucky team that was lackadaisical, that really had no urgency, and you had a Northern Kentucky team who knew they had nothing to lose. They're playing Kentucky, a powerhouse, a top 5 program to ever be implemented in basketball, essentially. Yeah. And so they have nothing to lose. So they're coming out, and their point guard played exceptionally well. But what I did find from that game and the Wichita State game is no one can guard De'Aaron Fox.
That's true.
I'll just say that. He's too fast. He's playing his best basketball right now. There is not anyone in the country right now that I believe can guard De'Aaron Fox.
Especially going down the stretch there. De'Aaron Fox made those plays to win the game.
And he's done that since the end of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it in the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
You saw it in a few games before the SEC tournament. Those last 4 or 5 games, you saw him come down at the end and say, you know what, I know that Malik Monk is the man. Malik Monk is the scorer, but I'm taking over.
Yeah.
This is De'Aaron Fox's team at this point.
Nobody can stop De'Aaron Fox from getting to the rim.
Absolutely not. There's no one, I don't think.
And speaking of Malik Monk, he really hasn't, barring a couple plays in the Wichita State game, he really hasn't played his best basketball in this tournament. And that's not a good sign for Kentucky, because they're going to need him to put up 20, 25 against UCLA.
They're either, what I think is the only positive to come, well, there's a couple. Number one, he's not playing great as far as shooting and things like that, but he's doing what he needs to do. Yeah. He's getting rebounds. He's not forcing it. Yeah. There was times during the season that you would see Malik Monk struggle, and he'd come down and just shoot a 3 from the volleyball line. And you're like, man, what are you doing? He's not doing that now. He's getting it to the open guy. He's making plays. I mean, there were a few plays in that Wichita State game where he comes off a screen from Bam and could easily, I mean, not easily, but he would have tried to lay it up over a defender, and he tosses it up, Bam gets an easy dunk.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the things that he's doing well right now.
Yeah.
Another good thing is Malik Monk is a scorer by nature.
Yeah.
He is due a 25 to 30 point game in this tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 2 games in a row he's struggled. He's getting an entire week now.
Yeah.
Well, not an entire week, but at least a 5-day stretch where he's going to go. He's probably going to work on his jump shot. He's probably going to get his mind focused. And I think he's due for a breakout game. He's due for a breakout game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And something else is you talked about Bam, and I think Bam Bam Adebayo has been playing his best basketball.
Absolutely.
In the tournament.
He's grabbing double-doubles left and right.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, getting all of the tough rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
He's learned to play with his body style. I mean, he's a massive human.
Nobody
just
can
in
stop
general.
this man.
He's learned to play with his body and not foul.
Yeah.
That's been extremely impressive. I mean, I don't even think he had a foul in the first half. Which there weren't many fouls called anyway.
It was a very well officiated game.
I agree. That's the best officiating that I've seen in this tournament so far.
Yeah.
But we're going to UCLA. Kentucky will see UCLA in the Sweet 16, and you can't say UCLA without thinking about LaVar Ball, who is playing great right now. I mean, the kid has possibly the ugliest shot I've ever seen in basketball besides Sean Marion. But he's hitting. I mean, he can create space at any moment. He almost had a triple-double against Cincinnati, a very, very good defensive team.
I'm going to say something, and I don't know if you agree with it, but Lonzo Ball reminds me of a bigger Rajon Rondo.
A bigger, more talented Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo could not shoot the ball like that.
Well, Lonzo Ball
and still cannot shoot the ball like that.
Lonzo Ball is not exactly a shooter either, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that I could agree with that because, like I said, the guy almost had a triple-double against Cincinnati. And that's just, I mean, Isaiah Briscoe and De'Aaron Fox had a couple triple-doubles, and that's just unseen. They had a couple triple-doubles this regular season. That's just unseen. You just don't see that. And then for him to come in against a great Cincinnati team,
in the tournament.
That's an underrated Cincinnati team. Very under the radar, great defensively.
That's something like LeBron getting the triple-double in Game 7 of the finals or something.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's LeBron, though. LeBron does what he wants.
Yeah.
But I think the story is going to be De'Aaron Fox versus Lonzo Ball.
I think whoever wins that matchup is going to win the game.
You've got, like, TJ Leaf, who I'm pretty sure I've never seen TJ Leaf miss a shot. I'm almost positive I've never seen that guy miss a shot because their bigs can – I mean, they went on a stretch against UCLA where I think they probably hit 6 or 7 in a row just as collectively as a team. I mean, they looked great, and, like, they're a very high-powered offense, averaging 90 points this regular season.
Yeah.
So the good thing is Kentucky's coming into this game with playing the best defense that they've played this year.
Yeah.
The bad thing is they're playing a very, very high-powered offense.
Yeah, they're playing a really good UCLA team, and that's the thing with UCLA is my brain says pick UCLA for this game. My heart says pick Kentucky for this game. Of course. But if the real matchup issue for Kentucky, I think, is actually going to be TJ Leaf. I don't know who's going to guard him because he plays the 4. Derek Willis cannot guard him.
No, I mean, Derek Willis is playing great right now.
He has stepped up his defense and his rebounding since he got engaged.
But yeah, I know. Since he's gotten engaged, the guy has played exceptionally well. I mean, we should have got him engaged like when he was a freshman. Like he could have been in the NBA by now. We should have got this guy engaged way earlier because it's like almost like a weight was lifted off his shoulder, and he just started playing really well.
And so I don't know who's going to guard that 4 spot. Could be Derek Willis. Wendy and Gabriel could be that X factor, but not if he played like he did against Wichita State.
If that guy shot one more shot from the short corner with 2 guys in his face, I was going to drive to Indianapolis and look at him and say, stop it. Like somebody he's playing awful right now. Yeah. He's giving you nothing.
I think it's the stage. I think he's a little bit worked up about it, and that's understandable. He's a young kid, freshman.
Right.
Definitely not a one-and-done player, I don't think, but I think that he could be the X factor. And I also want to give a shout-out to Dominique Hawkins, because without Dominique Hawkins, Kentucky don't win the SEC championship.
No.
And I don't know if they win that game against Wichita State.
No. I mean, you see at the end of that game, first of all, he's playing exceptionally better on offense.
Yeah.
But you see at the end of that game, you had the Malik Monk block, which was great.
Yeah.
Very great play. But then on the very last play, Dominique challenged that shot for Bam to get that block.
Yeah.
Had the point guard for Wichita State not had to alter his shot, I don't know that Bam would have gotten to block. I don't think he would have made it, but I think that he wouldn't have got that block.
I think it just speaks to how good he is on defense. That the fact that he was out there on the floor in that situation anyway.
And he's even playing much better on offense. He's hitting threes. I mean, there's a few times in that game that he hit I think he hit one or two very important threes.
Yeah.
I mean, very momentum swinging.
Yeah, he started
threes.
out and he had the first 7. He had went 3 for 3 from the floor. Had the first 7 for Kentucky. So
yeah. So you got Lonzo Ball, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk,
TJ Leaf,
Bam,
Bryce Alford,
TJ Leaf.
Bryce
Who you
Alford.
got? We've picked all the other games. We've got to pick this one.
I know. Like I said, as a Kentucky fan, and I know some of you probably don't care, but it's really scary to me to play UCLA. That is definitely not who I wanted. North Carolina, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
But UCLA, I did not want UCLA at all.
No.
But with that being said, if Kentucky can come out and play the same quality of defense, even not even that intense, let's say they go 80% of the intensity they had against Wichita State, I think they win this game because the offensive execution.
So are you picking Kentucky?
I'm getting there. So the offensive execution from Kentucky the latter half of the year has been pretty solid.
Yeah, no, they're playing.
And,
I mean, they're
by
always
execution. And you know this, by execution, I don't mean that they're hitting shots every time down the floor,
right.
But they're getting those looks to hit those shots every time down the floor.
Yeah, they're not forcing anything
exactly.
or anything like that.
So, I'm going to pick Kentucky, yeah.
All right. I'm going to pick Kentucky as well. And for the sole reason that I think De'Aaron Fox wins that matchup with Lonzo Ball. I think he takes it personally.
Yeah.
And I think that Lonzo Ball's a great player, but as seen by his father, who we'll talk about here in a minute, I think he's overlooking some of this college stuff.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't have to take it as seriously because he's been blown up so much, because he is such a great player, and because his draft stock is already so good.
Yeah.
So I think that if De'Aaron Fox locks down Lonzo Ball, if he can stop Lonzo Ball, I think the interior, I think Bam dominates. I think we're seeing a different Bam. I mean, Bam was in foul trouble in that UCLA game at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So I think, like you said, there's a great UCLA offense on one side, but there's a much improved UK defense on the other side. So I've got Kentucky winning this game strictly because of that defense. They can prove me wrong if they start playing very poorly and Lonzo Ball goes off for 30, then
I think the X factor that I said could be for Kentucky is Wenyen Gabriel. I think the X factor for UCLA could be Bryce Alford.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be important for probably Dominic Hawkins is going to guard him if he's not on Lonzo Ball. But I just think the size difference is going to be too great for Dominic Hawkins to guard him. But I think Dominic Hawkins could shut him down.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they're going to get a little bit more of their scoring. I don't know where they're going to get a good chunk from their scoring without him. So we've picked the Elite Sweet 16 games. We'll go through a little quicker, pick the Elite 8 games.
Yeah, let's just pick our Final Four.
Final Four? Okay.
Let's just pick our Final Four.
So we've got Kentucky, UK in the South. We got Kentucky, North Carolina in the South region. Once again, same issue. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Kentucky there. And I've got Kansas coming out of the Midwest, and Florida coming out of the East. Never thought I'd say that.
Wow.
And Arizona coming out of the West. So then I've got Kentucky and Arizona in the championship with Kentucky winning.
So just quick picks. I'll start in the East. I've got I'm going to take Baylor out of the East.
Okay.
I think their offense is too high octane for Florida.
Okay.
I'm going to pick Arizona coming out of the West. Like I said, very solid on both ends of the floor. I think that there should be too much for everybody in that region. In the Midwest, I'm going to take Kansas coming out of there because obviously the best team coming out of there. And this is going to change after the UCLA game, but I'm going to take North Carolina coming out of the South. It's hard to say, and that's a rough pill to swallow. North Carolina.
You need to see how Kentucky plays.
I need to see how you can. Yeah, and if they were playing North Carolina right now, I'd pick North Carolina.
I would too.
But if they play a great game and can shut down a high-octane offense of UCLA, I think they have a much better chance against North Carolina. But North Carolina's playing the best out of anybody, so I've got to take North Carolina in that game. I've got North Carolina and Arizona in my finals, and I'll take Arizona to win that game.
Okay, wow, Arizona. At least you picked a cat.
That's right.
And the thing with if Kentucky does go through, and I know we've talked about a lot of Kentucky stuff, but it's relevant. I think if Kentucky does,
there's a couple stories from this UCLA Kentucky game that we need to discuss.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. But I think that if Kentucky does end up playing North Carolina again, because they already played once this year and Kentucky won, but man, Kentucky could not stop North Carolina from scoring the ball. The only thing that helped them is Malik Monk at 47.
47. And like I said, he's due for a breakout game, or he's due for a couple consistent games.
Yeah, 27 would be fine.
Yeah. And Kentucky's playing much better, but it's just North Carolina is just playing so well right now. Yeah. I mean, they're going to be extremely hard to beat. So that's why I just can't. That's why I need to see this UCLA game, though.
Yeah.
I'll completely change my mind and have a lot more faith in Kentucky if they can show me defensively that they can stop UCLA.
Yeah, and like it has to be like clear cut that they stop them, not a close 98-100 game or something, because then it's over.
Then it's going to be really hard. You're going to have another crazy scoring game against North Carolina to win.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned, there's a couple stories from this UK-UCLA game that, I mean, we see it close as Kentucky fans, but there's really not any other stories like this. And the story number one always follows UCLA because of Lonzo Ball's dad, LaVar Ball. But I think another story that's kind of gone under the radar is John Calipari's return to Memphis.
Yeah, nobody's talking about that, and I don't know why, because Memphis played most of their games in the FedEx Forum, which is where the Grizzlies play and where these regionals are going to be held, and it's a homecoming for John Calipari.
Yeah.
So I want to know, how he's handling that. I don't know if he has any. I'm sure he has some sort of emotion about it.
Right.
And B, I want to know how the fans. Most of them are going to be Kentucky fans anyway, but I want to know how the Memphis fans kind of treat him, because they have Tubby Smith, so I think we got the better end of the trade.
Well, no doubt, but I love Tubby, number one. Tubby's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, the people of Memphis hate John Calipari. They and I don't understand why.
He made Memphis basketball relevant.
You're not a top 10 program.
Yeah.
And that's for some reason they think that they are, and their fans seem to think that they're of any kind of relevance, and you haven't been since John Calipari left.
Yeah.
John Calipari brought you the number one recruit in Derrick Rose,
took
you to the championship game where you should have won.
Yeah.
You should have won that game.
You win that game and hit free throws.
Yep. You should have won that game against Kansas.
It would have been vacated, but that's beside the point.
Well, and then, that they get upset because he left right after putting them under probation or whatever. But the probation...
He left for Kentucky.
Well, number one, he left for Kentucky.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a top... I mean, you leave for Kentucky or Duke, there's no reason you should even be... Yeah. Your fans should be mad. That's like if Mark Stoops left for...
Alabama.
Well, yeah, essentially. But... with the Memphis thing, he put you on a probation. It's not like he was paying players. It's not like it was about a test score.
Yeah.
I mean, you see things like the North Carolina scandal right now, the Louisville scandal, things like that. It's not like he was doing anything like that.
Yeah.
He didn't. And the only reason that you got punished, and you should probably take this into consideration, the reason that you got punished is because of your irrelevance. That's the reason why Louisville and North Carolina, two massive programs, two top 10 programs, aren't getting punished right now. And that's why Louisville's title will not get vacated, because the NCAA, I mean, they're very wishy-washy anyway. But you're Memphis. Like, understand that you're Memphis, and understand that John Calipari left you to be great, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just who John Calipari is. He's going to be. He wants to be the best at everything he does.
Yeah.
But I mean, they will. I think that he'll get booed. I think that. I think it hurts him. I mean, not like heartbreak or whatever, but I think it kind of makes him upset that they don't appreciate what he did there.
Yeah. Yeah, because they really should appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Because he, like you said, he made Memphis relevant in basketball and brought in so many good players. Tyreke Evans, Derrick Rose.
Gosh.
So many good players.
Yeah.
And really just because at that time the Grizzlies, they were up and down anyway.
Right.
So the best basketball in Memphis was the Memphis Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. Some of them might receive him, kind of badly, but they really shouldn't.
They shouldn't. But he was supposed to actually go back and be honored at one of the Memphis games, and it got canceled because so many of them, because they knew the reception would be bad, according to most of the fans there. No one wanted him there, and that's awful. So, I mean, it's going to be. I don't think that he's so focused right now. He's always focused during tournament. The only thing he cares about is March anyway. I mean, let's just be honest. He wants to win those regular season games, but he's always preparing for March. So he's extremely focused right now. I'm sure it's not a big thing, but it's going to be in the back of his mind, I believe.
Yeah. And so that's the Calipari and Memphis situation. And You also talked about LaVar Ball, the best player to ever play the game of basketball. According to his...
averaging 2.2 points per game at Washington State.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is ridiculous. And there was a story out that he said a quote that turned out to be not true. So we won't. I'll try not. I mean, I'm not going to even touch on that. But he comes out today and says that, Lonzo Ball's so much better than De'Aaron Fox, and that De'Aaron Fox isn't even a top 5 pick in the
and that this UCLA team, because of Lonzo Ball, has so much better chemistry than this Kentucky team.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true or false. I don't really agree with that, but we're not on the team, so we can't really speak to that. But I think that LaVar Ball is making such a spectacle of everything, and I just don't think that it's good for Lonzo Ball.
No, I mean. Here's my thing. Good for him for believing in his kids so much, even if it is outlandish sometimes. I mean, he says that Lonzo Ball is better than Stephen Curry. Come on. Well, good for you. I mean, that's good. That's what you're supposed to do with your kids. You're supposed to believe in them to the highest potential.
But March. It's the tournament. This is the Sweet 16. The attention does not need to be on.
No, he continues to bring the attention to him, and it's actually off of Lonzo Ball. It is back to LaVar Ball. Every time you think of Lonzo Ball now, you'll forever think of his dad.
Yeah, and I can only imagine the questions he's getting asked in these press conferences about. They tell you to ask about the game. Keep it specific, but these questions are about LaVar Ball.
Absolutely.
And I wonder how much that weighs on him.
Right. Well, he was quoted as saying that that's just his dad.
Yeah.
That it's just how he is. Just let him do. Just let him do his thing. But I mean, he's making every game about him. And you know what? Every media member is going straight to LaVar Ball, and because they know that's the story. They know that's what's going to get clicks. They know that's what's going to get reads and listens and everything else.
Yeah.
But I mean, he needs to just back off. Let his kid be great. Let his kids be great. All three of the Ball sons are great.
Yeah.
And they will be great.
Let the game speak for them. Don't you speak for them. Let their game speak for them.
Great to have confidence in your sons. Great to have confidence in the program.
But this is too far.
This is too much.
Because you're calling out other people and then other people's kids.
Yeah.
Like, this is not your place.
LeBron James' kids. And LeBron James came out and said, don't talk about my sons. Yeah. This has become personal now.
Yeah.
And then LaVar Ball comes back with,
play one-on-one.
Well, yeah. No, he comes back and he says, I don't know if you saw this today, but he comes back and says, that's just a threat. Nothing's really happened yet. Or, essentially that LeBron wasn't going to do anything about it.
Yeah. LeBron James is not someone that I would want to cross.
6'8", 250-pound, all-muscle man. LeBron James is the definition of a grown man.
Yeah.
I mean...
And the thing, LaVar Ball is trying to promote this brand, and I mean, I also don't think that's good for the kids either. Because, they're in high school and they're in college, and they don't need to be promoting some sort of brand.
Well, UCLA needs to tell them to shut up, too, before the NCAA comes knocking.
Yeah. And just for fun, I looked at the Big Baller brand, which is LaVar Ball's brand. Looked at the T-shirts. Guess how much a T-shirt is?
It's got to be something crazy.
$57 for a Big Baller brand T-shirt.
Are people paying this? Surely not.
They have a full inventory and website, so I mean they've got to get that $1 billion contract somehow.
That's just like I said, like we've both said, the story doesn't need to be about him. He needs to take a few steps back actually.
Because it's not like Lonzo Ball is some mediocre player. Lonzo Ball's a great player.
Great.
You don't need to keep telling us this. We can already see this.
Right.
Just let him and let his game speak.
And
for
even
itself.
if he was just saying, you know what, my son's a great player. I'm really proud of him. I think he's the best player in the country. Don't go over there and be like,
don't be going on ESPN. Don't be going on SportsCenter and be like, my son going to go to the Lakers. He's going to be the best player to ever play the game.
He's better than Steph Curry and LeBron right now.
Yeah.
There's no need for that. We understand that you have an extreme amount of confidence in your son, and that's what you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
But there's no need to make the story about you every game. I mean, imagine if UCLA were to make it to the Final Four.
I don't want to imagine that.
You get that Final Four media day. He's going to be everywhere.
It's going to be like the Super Bowl, but with LaVar Ball.
Yeah, exactly.
LaVar Ball is going to be like Tom Brady on that day.
I'd like to go ahead and get Kentucky to put out LaVar Ball instead of putting out UCLA. Just go ahead and beat UCLA so LaVar Ball goes away.
You're right. Those are some hot takes on LaVar Ball, but I mean, I think they were deserved. He's always on ESPN.
He's everywhere right now, so
yeah.
I mean, you have to talk about him, even as much as you don't want to give him attention because he keeps going. He's just everywhere right now. So, those are really the main stories and main thing going on in the tournament. That's our takes on the special of March Madness.
Yeah, and that's our Raider Takes March Madness edition. We will have this podcast up on Twitter, Facebook, the Raider View website, and I'm sure we'll both personally tweet it out or something, and that way you can hear it. Let us know what you think. If you hate Kentucky, that's fine. You can listen to the LaVar Ball stuff. That's fine.
Sure. We'd love to get some feedback, and even if, a very civilized manner, we can debate these games. I mean, if you feel like we're just completely wrong about something and that Kentucky and North Carolina are the worst teams to ever play basketball,
that's fine.
Feel free to let us know, and we'll be A-okay with having a discussion with you because, we both love to talk sports. Obviously, that's why we're sitting behind these microphones right now.
Yeah, you're right.
So please, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and we will have a post-March Madness edition podcast out in April, and who knows, we might release one between now and then about something else. But thank you for listening. I'm Cody Maggard, and he's Kevin Booth. Thanks.